Welcome to the Fourth Row Podcast, your exclusive source for 2A basketball. And now, your hosts, coming to you from the Slim 4 studio, Andy and Benny Hill.
Welcome to the Fourth Row Podcast, the only podcast dedicated solely to 2A basketball here in the fantastically cold state of Utah. I'm your host, Andy Hill. I'm here with the coach, Benny Hill, in the newly renovated Slim 4 studio, sponsored by Security National Mortgage.
How about this, huh?
We're back again.
Back at it. Last year was fantastic, and we thought, well, we'll do this again. I'm trying to play producer and podcast at the same time. So
it's a little challenging at times, to be honest. The last year we didn't have the video going on. It's a whole nother element.
Absolutely, it is. One thing I realized, when I recorded and I went back and watched the recordings to see if they looked okay, you look much chubbier than you think on camera.
That's not good.
If I turn side with the side profile, it's kind of chubby, so you got to look kind of straight on a little bit. You look much slimmer.
Well, we'll learn the tricks of the trade here.
But this is new. The studio is new. The YouTube concept is going to be great.
Yeah, we've learned a lot. You know, we both listen to a lot of podcasts. We like to watch a lot of podcasts, and one of the reasons why we want to do the video was because there's a different element when you have a video. When you're doing a podcast and there's a pause, it gets uncomfortable really fast.
Oh yeah.
But if you're watching a video and you're looking at each other, or you're thinking, or you're trying to collect your thoughts, then it makes sense. So we wanted to add that element into it this year. So we're excited to be able to do that.
And it adds some context to your conversation.
Yeah.
It deepens it a little bit. People can see us. They can see the animation. It is a very cool aspect to watch a podcast.
It is. And there's a lot that goes into it. You think you just show up and start talking. There's a lot that goes into this.
We have our camera that we got to take care of. We have our audio that we're taking care of. Next week, we're going to have some stuff going on our TV. Plus, we got laptops we're getting information from. A lot going on.
Yeah.
I told Bones I'm going to hire him as our producer.
That'll be good.
Yeah. Keep track of our camera and stuff. So.
Well, before we get started, we'd again like to thank our title sponsor, Security National Mortgage, our good friend Chris Jorgensen up in Ephraim. Last year, when we threw this idea out, we had barely even came up with a name, and we went to Chris and said, "Hey, Chris, we're looking for a sponsor," and he said, "I'm on board."
What do you need?
I'm going to go on record and say there's nobody in Sanpete County or the surrounding areas who sponsors more sports activities than Chris Jorgensen to Security National.
I would throw out a challenge. Anybody that's coming to Central Utah or anywhere, pretty much in Central Utah, when you go into a high school gym, look for the Security National banner. You'll find it.
Absolutely. Yep, we love Chris. He's been very good to us. We reached out to him again this year, and he said, absolutely, let's do it. Chris is a proud Manti Templar. We do hold that against him.
Absolutely, we do. Every day.
He's a diehard Utah Jazz fan. He loves golf. If you are ever in the neighborhood in Ephraim, stop by, go into his office. He's got all kinds of sports memorabilia, all kinds of cool things in there. And ultimately, if you need a mortgage, if you need to refinance, you're building a home, buying a home, give Chris a call, 435-283-3000. I personally have bought 2 different homes. We built a home, done a bunch of refinances. Chris took care of it all. It was seamless. It was pain-free. He'll take care of you.
Absolutely. Highly recommended.
Absolutely. So we appreciate Chris jumping in and being our title sponsor again for Security National Mortgage. Let's talk for a minute about what's new.
Well, obviously, we got our new digs here. We figured if we're going to go live and show people the studio, we better clean it up a little bit. Mm-hmm. So we put a little work into this, and it's a work in progress as we go on, see which things work and what things look good on camera. We're going to utilize our TV this year with perhaps some game film, videos we can watch. We're going to roll in a whiteboard if we need to diagram or show a game-winning play that someone sketched up. Anyway. When we reveal our draft at the end of the year, our top 20 draft, we're going to have a draft board that we can peel names off. So it's going to be a lot of fun to visually show more of what we do here.
Yeah, and one of the reasons how we were able to do this, number one, were our existing sponsors. We talked about Security National. We'd also like to thank Snow College South, Redmond Minerals, Barney Trucking, and G-Telco. they all jumped on board last year. All of them signed back up again this year, so we're excited. And we also have 3 new sponsors who joined the Fourth Row team this year. We'd like to thank Dixie Power, Robertson Kimball Accounting, and Crosby Home and Farm down in Kanab.
Real quick, as you're going through those, I don't know if you're going to get to this yet, but along with the studio, the broadcast that will be on YouTube, YouTube channel Fourth Row Media. You have to search clear down because we're just barely started, so it'll take a minute to find it in the search. But go to Fourth Row Media, and we'll be there. Our website's updated. We're going to be a little bit much more interactive on our website to give people something to go. That's our home base. So all of our marketing channels are going to link back to our website, where you can find our archived podcast from last year, and the podcast will be up there. The current podcast will be on the homepage as well.
Talk for a minute. Where else can you find the podcast?
You can find it on Spotify, soon to be on Apple, and what's the other ones you can go to? Those are the main ones, right? Spotify, Apple.
Much,
if you're not on those, then that's about it. Yeah.
Everything.
But it will all be, you can go to our website to link to it always as well.
Right.
fourthrowmedia.com.
Yeah, so that's a little bit about what's going on.
One other thing I forgot to mention, there's a swag section.
Oh, yeah.
We've got a little fourth row basketball apparel going up, and the intention behind this, the reason we started this podcast was we wanted to do something to carry on the legacy of my son Jackson. And so one thing that we're going to do is with our apparel, all proceeds of our apparel are going to go to the Slim 4 Foundation. That's a foundation in Jackson's honor where we can give back to high school kids or athletes that are in need. So buy a T-shirt, it's going to go to a good cause.
Yeah, and also just as a side note, we've talked about this before. People have asked, where did you come up with the name Fourth Row? As we were generating some ideas on what we were going to do with this last year, we threw all kinds of ideas up on the wall, and most of them were just bad. They were just bad. And we wanted to incorporate the number 4. That was Jackson's number. And we wanted to incorporate basketball somehow and try to get that. And so it just kind of morphed in to Fourth Row. Yeah. And it stuck.
It stuck, and it sounded good.
And it's really, we've got a lot of run out of it. I think it's been good. The logo's catchy. People understand who we are now. And when they understand a little bit about everything that's there, it works out really good. So go online, check out the website, check out everything that's on there. There's a little blurb about Jackson on there as well. Learn about him. There's some pictures there. A lot of good stuff going on.
The studio in and of itself is a shrine to Jackson.
Yeah.
Everything in here is memorabilia of his, and so we just decided we'd build our studio right inside, our podcast studio right here in Jackson's room. So.
Yeah. So it works good.
That's where we're at. Yeah. And also, it doubles as an apartment down in our basement. My wife right now is getting tater tot casserole out of the stove. So she's trying to be quiet. If I could turn the camera, if we had a producer, we'd turn the camera on her. But she's going to try not to trip over our cords as she leaves here. And she's out.
That's a great thing. That's a great thing about doing this is it's just
live. You just roll with it.
It is what it is, right? We just roll with it. Let's talk for a minute, just briefly, about lessons learned, or maybe talk about two of your favorite things from doing the podcast last year.
My 2 favorite things, friendships. There's no substitute for that. We met amazing people we never would have met. Number 2 is I got to reconnect with my coaching friends. Being away last year was tough. It sucked sitting in the stands with no one to talk to, and all coaches will typically go sit by themselves somewhere. They don't like to sit amongst others. It's just the way they are. And so I don't know, I could find a friend usually to sit by, but games were lonely. And so it was awesome to go to games, to go find coaches before and after to visit. And coaches, it's a tight-knit community because it's a lonely world being a coach. And all coaches have the same struggles, and they just like to vent. Coaches like to listen, and then they like to vent themselves. So those are my 2 favorite things: amazing friends that we met, and reconnect with coaches.
Yeah, I'd say my 2 things.
I'll say my 2B is we met a lot of awesome young men.
We did. That's what I was going to say. One of our goals was to kind of bring the 2A community together. We've both Benny's coached. I had son that played. And for many, many years, you just show up to the gym, you play, you hate the other team, you get in the bus, and you go home, right? That's just how it is. Last year, it was so different. We showed up to the gym, and it was like, hey, we're just here to enjoy basketball. And because of that, you stripped out all those feelings and everything else, and you just enjoyed it for what it was. You enjoyed the game, you enjoyed the coaching, you enjoyed the parents, you enjoyed the fans, and it opened this whole new world.
That's what was so enjoyable. Games became so much more, I don't know, they just are much more rewarding event.
Yeah, you weren't I don't know, you weren't hating somebody when you showed up. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but it was just there was the competition was still there, but it was different. And I'll echo what you said about friendships. I met some amazing people. We both did met some amazing people last year. People that I now consider good friends. One of them in particular, Duke Randall down in Enterprise. His son Ryland was one of our co-MVPs last year in basketball. Fantastic baseball player. I ran into him down at Kanab. We kind of met, and common goal was the podcast. And just started talking. And since then, we're texting all the time. Both of our sons are out in the mission field right now. And that wouldn't have happened without the podcast.
You never even went up and said hi.
Yeah. You know, another cool experience I had was during the baseball state tournament. Bud Randall, coach of Enterprise, and Duke, their brothers, their dad was there at the Enterprise game, and I sat by him and visited, and he told me all about his history and the history of Enterprise. Never would have happened except for with the podcast. So
absolutely.
I think we made the inroads we wanted to. I think we fulfilled one of those goals, is bringing that community together, because we did. There was one common thing there with that.
And I think you and I were both awestruck amongst ourselves when we were both standing on the court at SVC after the state championship game, visiting with both coaches, visiting with players on the winning side and the losing side, and it was unbelievable. That for us, that was the culmination of an unbelievable run with the podcast, meeting kids, getting to know coaches better. I loved it.
Yeah, I think when we just cracked the surface. We just barely figured out what we were doing last year, and the season was over. So it was awesome wearing our little media pass around. It was. It says Fourth Row Media.
Getting the games free.
Part of the club.
Yeah.
Exciting stuff. So one other big thing that's changed this year in high school basketball, the shot clock. So as a former coach, what impacts do you possibly see? And we'll talk about this more in detail as we go throughout the season, but what do you think that's going to change about the game this year?
I thought a lot about it when it was discussed. It had been discussed for many years, and I think everyone just loves to say, oh, the shot clock would be awesome because it resembles the college game and the pro game. They have the shot clock. And so it's an easy answer to say, yes, we need a shot clock. I don't know that it's going to change the game a whole lot, other than logistically, you're going to have another scorekeeper or another score person,
right,
an official at the scores table to man that clock exclusively, to reset it appropriately. And really the only time it's going to come into play, I believe, is maybe the end of quarters or end of games.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that.
So I don't know that there's going to logistically, maybe a bigger issue logistically and cost associated with it more than it will change the game. Now, with that being said, are there some situations where people do hold the ball for an obnoxious amount of time? Yes, there are.
Yeah.
So it will eliminate those things, but I think for the most part, it's just going to depend upon your style of play. If you're a motion offensive team, usually coaches are good with a good to great shot no matter when it happens. If it's push up the court in transition and you're in the corner and you have an open three, that's a great shot. The only teams that it may impact are teams that rely solely upon a set regimented offense that requires players to get in proper positioning for them to reset offense. Things like that. It may slow their pace down a little bit to where they may run into some shot clock issues. But the coaches I spoke with when they played games over the summer in gyms that had shot clocks, rarely was there violations.
Yeah, 35 seconds is still a long time.
It's a long time.
And you think, oh, no, it'll shorten it out. Next time you go to a game, look at the clock and keep track of how long 35 seconds really is.
Now, I'm not a stat geek by any means, but I've heard other coaches say that the average possession doesn't even reach 30 seconds. Yeah. So, and that the pace of the game has picked up over the years anyway. Mm-hmm. So I think it's kind of a cool thing, and people will get a little oohs and ahs over the shot clock, but I don't see it being a major thing.
Yeah,
hopefully not. Hopefully the issues are minor, and it doesn't, games don't get decided because of the guy at the table messing up the reset or whatever. But I think it'll be minimal.
Yeah, and I anticipate the first couple games, kids are always going to be looking up, right? Just because they haven't been used to that. Yeah. I would anticipate 2-3 games into the season, they'll get in their flow, they'll get in their rhythm, and they'll kind of forget about it.
Yeah.
And my guess is, and this is my assumption, is it'll have little to no impact on the games or what we see, at least at the 2A level.
I think it'll quickly just be some background noise.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I think that'll be the case.
So that'll be something.
But that's something new.
It's something that's definitely going to be different this year than in previous years. That it is a big change, and I think it's important that you mention, from the scorers table for the last 15 years, I've been the announcer there at Gunnison Valley High School, so you see what goes on, and there's a lot that goes on, and you've got 1,000 people in the gym yelling at some part-time guy down running the clock. I can tell you they're down there literally shaking in their I've seen it. I've seen them shaking in their shoes. Running the clock because everybody's like, turn it on, turn it off, or heaven forbid you get the wrong number on a foul. Oh my goodness, watch out. The only thing worse than that is if you announce some kid's name wrong.
Mommy from the stands is barking
Guarantee
at you.
Your mom's in the back saying, his name is Johnny, not something else. We joke about that, but those are the things. So I worry about having an additional person at a scorer's table and having them pay attention enough every time that shot goes up. They're watching the officials, making sure it hits the rim. Does it not hit the rim? Does it reset? Did it not reset? Those are the things that I think will impact a game more than how it affects the kids.
I agree. Logistically is going to be the biggest issue.
Yeah. Well, let's run into our region breakdown. There's 4 regions in 2A. For those of you who may not be familiar with the 2A classification, let's start with Region 16 and go through those at a high level. Talk a little bit about the teams and what people can expect from each one of them.
Yeah, I think we've agreed we will go into the regions a little bit more in depth, team by team, and get a little more specific in them in another podcast. From 30,000 feet, Region 16 here. The class of Region 16, the Millard Eagles, Duchesne Eagles, North Summit Braves, North Severe Wolves, Gunnison Valley Bulldogs.
Anything specifically that stands out about Region 16?
The main standout is Millard, last year 8-0 in region, did not drop a game. You're going to have similar competition. Well, Millard brings back a very similar team with similar firepower, so it's going to be up to these 4 teams below to see what juniors or now to seniors are going to make an impact and see which team rises to challenge Millard. But so really there's 4 unknowns in this region, and then there's the known, well-known Millard Eagles.
Right. Let's go to Region 17.
Region 17, we have Roland Hall, Winged Lions, Draper APA Eagles, APA West Valley Eagles, Waterford Ravens, St. Joe's Jayhawks, Utah Military Hillfield Thunderbirds. Probably the best mascot region in 2A.
Oh, absolutely. They've got some cool ones.
The Winged Lions, the Ravens, the Jayhawks, the Thunderbirds.
Yeah. Fantastic. One thing that I would just say, an initial observation about Region 17, and we'll talk about this in Region 18 as well, is always a lot of changes.
There are.
By the very nature of these schools, private charter schools, generally speaking, there's a lot of changes year over year just because of the nature of the schools and what they are. This year, one of the other things that is going to affect at least half of these teams in both Region 17 and Region 18 are new coaches. A little bit of a coaching carousel going on up north. So for us, last year, we didn't know a lot about these regions. We reached out to Roland Hall, got really familiar with Coach Alvidrez there at Roland Hall. And so he was kind of our
eyes and our ears up there, our informant.
Kind of let us know what was going on. But aside from that, we didn't have a lot of information. So one plug I would just put in is if there's anybody in any of these schools, feel free to reach out to us. Obviously, we know Coach Alvidrez. We'll be talking to him. But if there's anybody else, let us know. We would love to talk about your kids, talk about your school. The other thing that hampers that a little bit, not a lot of televised games out of these North regions.
Yeah, we're blessed down here with Mid Utah Radio, Centricom, and now Team Hive Live. Almost every game is broadcast.
Yeah.
So that is a struggle to learn of teams up there, but we'll love to share your team's information if we can get it.
Yeah. Thoughts on Region 17 as far as overall play?
Overall play, I just know last year Roland Hall was they were straight 7-0 in their region last year. You're going to have a lot of, with these, along with influx of coaches, changing of coaches, you have new players that regularly cycle through these schools. Call it what you want. They do have turnover at these schools. And so right now I would say you have Roland Hall, APA Draper, APA West Valley, probably the top three in that region.
Historically
they will be. Yeah. So coaches out there, we would love to get more information.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's roll to Region 18.
Region 18, once again, we have American Heritage Patriots, the Rockwell Marshals, Mazer Prep Lions, Merritt Academy Knights, Freedom Prep Academy Eagles, and Utah Military Camp Williams Marauders. Once again, some nice mascots.
Yeah, they do. They have some good ones.
You know what stands out for me in this what do you think of when you see this region here?
I don't know.
That's easy. It's an easy one. Rockwell.
Oh, Rockwell.
Rockwell. They have 3 of the 4 Hendersons back.
Oh, they do?
Yes. I looked at their roster. They got three of the Hendersons back. I think they had 4 playing in the state tournament last year.
So let's rewind. And the reason why Coach Benny's bringing this up, the very beginning of last season, Rockwell went on a bit of a run.
They may have been 10-0 or something close to that.
And we'll talk about a little bit more about this when we get down a little bit later in one of our segments. But we didn't give them probably the hype that they thought they deserved. And time went on. Lo and behold, Rockwell's matched up with San Juan Broncos, the number 1 team, opening round of the state playoffs. And the first quarter went by and Rockwell's winning, and the second quarter goes by and Rockwell's winning, and the third quarter goes by and Rockwell is still up on the number 1 Broncos. We're pretty sure everybody in the gym who wasn't from Blanding was cheering for Rockwell. Now, aside from Cooper Black just taking over the game, Rockwell may have had the biggest upset ever in the history of 2A.
Possibly, yes.
And they just played this fun, wild style. They were throwing balls from every corner of the gym, and they were going in.
And there was 4, I was told there were 4 brothers,
yes.
And they all looked the same. There's a set of twins, and then the others looked just like the twins. Mm-hmm. And that was cool.
It was fun.
That's what I always think when I see Rockwell. It's the Fighting Hendersons.
So again, this is one of those regions we don't know a lot about. We know Rockwell from last year, seeing them make that little bit of a run. But other than that, again, similar to Region 17, a little bit of a coaching carousel this year. 3 of the 6 teams will have new coaches, little influx of players back and forth. So once the season gets started, we'll have a better idea. But right now, a little bit up in the air.
American Heritage traditionally has been the top team in that region. They were 8-0 last year.
Yeah, and we've heard some noise that they may be competitive again this year.
And they've had some very, very good players coming through American
players.
Heritage over the past years.
Fantastic players.
Yeah.
Region 19, what we commonly refer to as the Juggernaut.
The Juggernaut. We've got San Juan Broncos, South Sevier Rams, Parowan Rams, Enterprise Wolves, Kanab Cowboys, and the Beaver Beavers.
If there was a quote-unquote iconic region,
this region is 2.
Yeah. This is 2A right here. This is the old school 2A. These guys, every night there's a battle with every team. There's a state tournament type feeling in the gym every time these guys play. There's no nights off for them. I don't know what else to say other than
just a preview of a later segment here. Yeah. 4 of our 5 Power 5 teams are found in Region 19, mm-hmm. and it was last year also.
Yeah, and last year was a little bit different than what you normally see. Traditionally, the Beaver Beavers and Coach Joe Hillock have been the cream of the crop in 2A. You
add them; they struggled last year. They were 0-10 in region. You add them in the mix as a competitive, as a competitive team again. If they would have been last year, lights out.
Oh yeah,
that region would be unbelievable.
Yeah, And we expect the same this year from top to bottom. There's a lot of new faces. There's a lot of faces that are coming back from last year. So we really got to see. We saw a lot of these teams play. I think I saw personally in person every one of these teams play. Some of them multiple times, and most of them we watched a lot of their games online. So we came very accustomed to seeing what these guys could do.
Only change up in this region in coaching. San Juan Broncos has a new coach.
Yep, Coach Johnny Slavens, who's new. Coach Travis Black retired last year to spend some time with his family.
Good for him.
Wish him the best. We still stay in touch. Still get a little intel out of Coach Black.
He said he would come be a contributor on the show. So
yeah, we got to know Coach Black. He was probably, I don't want to say probably, he was our biggest advocate from the coaching side last year.
Yes, I reached out to him from day one. I told you this. He was the first phone call I made because I heard all this buzz. San Juan's coming back to 2A, and they're going to run the table. And I said, well, I guess I better call, Coach Black and see what he's got going on. And Coach Black and Coach Randall, those were the first two that just jumped right on board. And of course, those two 1-2 battled the entire season, and we had a monumental or a historical state championship game between those two. So, Coach Black, we owe him a lot.
Yeah. So that's that rundown of our regions, regions 16, 17, 18, and 19. We'll talk a lot about those. Each week we're going to give a quick rundown of the top games in the regions as they go along. And as we head down and get more into region play, we usually do a game of the week, focus a lot on what's going on, focusing on players.
Player breakdowns, offensive schemes, defensive schemes, and those are a lot of fun.
Yeah, they are. They are. Last year, once we got into the season, that's when it got really exciting. And right now, there's not a lot going on. I think the first games actually are officially today.
I think there's some tonight. North Severe's is going tonight.
I think they're playing at Panguitch. I think
yes, they are.
That's a tough matchup.
Talk about shot clock. We'll see how 1A adjusts.
Yeah,
that'll
be interesting to see because we usually don't talk a lot about the 1A teams, but traditionally 1A teams don't have a fast-paced offense. They're slow, they're methodical, they're okay with a 26-20 ball game, and that won't happen this year.
It'll be different. There's no doubt about it. It'll be a big change.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
So yes, games start tonight, and it's go time.
Yeah,
there'll be a little lull in between the Thanksgiving week, but then they go.
Yeah, then they go fast. And what we found out last year is once they start going,
it's hard to keep up with it all.
Yeah, even in 2A, it's hard to keep up with games because there's games almost every single night. You get into region play, but then there's always games here and there, and it's hard to keep up with them.
I know last year there was one time down here in the studio I had TV, laptop, desktop, and my phone for the games fired up on my desk. It was great.
That was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
One new segment that we would like to do as we close out our region breakdowns is a segment we like to call Inside the Numbers. Inside the Numbers, this show will be sponsored by Roberts and Kimball Associates, an accounting firm in Richfield. They love and support their South Sphere Rams, so we appreciate them helping us out this year. So the way this is going to work is we're going to take turns with a number, and we'll ask each other what their number is, and then we'll talk a little bit about that. So Coach Benny...
And I'm not going to give you the answer, and I'll tell you why in just a second.
Yep. So Coach Benny, he is going to give the number tonight, so I'm just going to simply say, Benny, what's your number?
My number is 117. That's 117.
117. Now, when you think about 117, that could be a lot of things, right? In terms of basketball, it could be points, it could be rebounds, it could be wins, it could be a million things. What's important about 117?
117. This is our number of the night, 117. There is a collective coaching staff in 2A currently right now that through this season, 2022-2023, will have a combined coaching years, 117 coaching years sitting on their bench. So the question is, this is where we're going to play in between the numbers is, on our YouTube, when you go watch the podcast on YouTube, in the comments, we need to know which coaching staff has 117 years of combined coaching experience sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
From those that will go ahead and comment, The correct winners, we'll raffle, and we'll give you some fourth row swag.
Yeah, so go on there and check that out.
I've always wanted to say that. So make sure you, make sure you comment in the link below. Comment in the link below.
Subscribe.
And then comment in the link below. Which coaching staff has 117 combined years of coaching on their bench this year?
Yeah, and I'll give you 7 hints. It's not any of these teams because they all have new coaches: Draper APA, St. Joseph's, Utah Military, Hillfield, Merritt Academy, Rockwell, Utah Military, Camp Williams, or San Juan. It's none of those.
None of those.
They all have brand new coaches this year.
So leave us your answer. We'll get in contact with you, and we'll send you some fourth row swag.
I think this will be fun.
Absolutely.
Every week we'll come up with just kind of a random number. That one was pretty incredible. When you sent that over to me today, I was blown away.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that next week on the podcast, announce the winner. But that was pretty exciting.
Absolutely. Fun segment. Thank you to the Roberts for being a part of this.
Yeah, we appreciate them very much. Before we jump into the Power 5, just briefly, we want to talk briefly about the website and about social media. One of the ways that we like to reach out, there's a lot of different ways you can reach out anymore to try to get our name out there. Probably the biggest one we use right now is Instagram. Facebook's out there. We've been told that Facebook is for old people. A lot of people still use Facebook.
We may be that generation there.
There's also Twitter. Twitter is the news feed is so fast on Twitter. I know a lot of people use Twitter. I think our main outlet that we use right now is Instagram. So as podcasts go up, as we're sharing information, we share a lot of stories on there. Look for us on Instagram. Friends isn't the correct term. I don't know what. Go out and
You're a follower?
Follower. Go out and follow us on Instagram, Fourth Row Media, and that's one of the easiest ways to get a hold of us too. If you want to send us a message, I know that's last year. Especially players and parents, we got a lot of messages back through Instagram. It's an easy way to communicate. What we're really trying to do is just drive people to the website, which is where we like to keep all the information. The podcast is there, articles are up there, the swag stuff's up on there. Any videos we're going to put up there as well. So ultimately we're going to go, it's fourthrowmedia.com. You can also get our contact information if you want to shoot us an email or shoot us a text. Get on there and check that out.
You sound official. We're kind of trying to put the pieces together here and act like we know what we're doing, huh?
Yeah, I loved how you say subscribe right here, and they put a link right where you need to.
Or is it up here? Subscribe, the link up here.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're figuring things out. We started last year with nothing, right? So we created some new pages. I think we were over 5,000 downloads, or was it 6,000?
We're over 6,000.
Over 6,000 downloads on the podcast. I know we're over or close to 800 followers on Instagram, which is pretty active. Yeah. And we got a pretty good following. I know we were working to get this podcast out last night. We had some small technical difficulties.
We had a lot of difficulties last night.
But both I and the coach, we had people blowing up our phones today saying, "Where's the podcast?"
Like, it's called Andy. We got to get our game on, man. We're gonna.
So thankfully, there's some people out there who are looking for the podcast.
I actually do have a few followers, at least a handful.
Yeah. So we're excited.
So
for that.
one of our big goals this year, we want to hit 10,000, maybe 15,000 downloads on the podcast. That would be awesome.
That would be amazing. So go out there, subscribe, listen, check out the podcast, check it out on YouTube. We think it's a lot of fun, and we think it's probably the best breakdown you're going to find for 2A basketball anywhere in the state of Utah.
One thing when we do hit the 10,000 mark downloads, we're going to have a nice, good giveaway. It's going to be worth your time. So let's help us get to the 10K.
Yeah, we
That'd be
appreciate
cool.
that. With that being said, Benny, let's talk about what really matters, and that's the Power 5.
Love the Power 5.
Give us a little bit of a history of what the Power 5 is and what it's all about.
Glad you asked. The Power 5 is something that we wanted to do different that made sense to us. And there's always traditional media, Des News, they have just the standard rankings 1 through 5. And we thought it redundant, and it was basically we're just rehashing if we just put out a 1 through 5 as well, because you can go find that so easily. So we wanted to come up with our own twist on what what our rankings are. So our rankings of the Power 5 are simply, we identify 5 teams that we feel like have the components right now to win a championship if it was championship day today. So we don't look at it's what's happening right now. So when you talk about what things really matter, players, obviously personnel matters. All the components for a great team matter. You got your point guard, shooting guards, bigs, coaching staff matters, chemistry, team chemistry, all those things, and the eye test. There's the eye test and the smell test also. All those things combined together in our own little personal formula we have here equals the Power 5. Now, when the Power 5, it's not necessarily the number 1 team is better than the number 5 team. It just means the number 1 team has been in the Power 5 and is hotter longer than the 5 team has been. So we will usually take the hottest team going. They'll generally rise up the charts pretty quick. If there's a team that got hot early and they've remained hot and keep winning games, it's hard to drop.
Right.
But I know last year there was a couple teams that came out of nowhere. Millard came out of nowhere, and they blew into the Power 5. They were an inferno for a little while. Later in the season, South Sevier, they torched up and got up high. Parowan got up to the number 1 spot. They went from not in the 5 to boom, they went to the top spot quick. So any team can get hot and jump into the Power 5. Enterprise, I think, stayed in the whole season. San Juan stayed in the whole season. They may have been the only ones.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's our own fun little formula, the Power 5. So there's no reason to try to clown us over our rankings because it's not hey, this team is better. That's not how we rank them. We rank them who we think is the hottest teams right now.
Right. This year, the Power 5 will be sponsored by our good friends at Barney Trucking. If you want to drive one of the big, beautiful blue and white trucks now,
clean,
keeping the lights on here in Utah, go to barneyjobs.com. We appreciate Barney Trucking. They've been very good to us. A little bit of history. Our dad worked there for almost 40 years. It was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Haul. You laugh about that.
Why I laugh about it every time you say it.
But he was there for almost 40 years, and they treated him so good. When he passed away, they were so good to our mom. And we reached out to them, and it was a no-doubter. They've sponsored us last year and this year. So the Power 5 this year will be sponsored by our good friends at Barney Trucking. So with that being said, trying to get my computer to work here. Let's start at the bottom at number 5. Who's our number 5 team in our Power 5?
Number 5, the Parowan Rams.
Talk about the Parowan Rams.
There is no way you cannot have Parowan Rams in your Power 5 if you have Brock Felder on your squad. Brock Felder last year, 21.4 points per game, 10 rebounds. He's a generational player. And it's odd. I mean, he's kind of, like I said, he's quiet. You see this guy, you don't hear. I guess you do hear a lot about him, but you see him. He's kind of unassuming, but man, he can control games.
Oh yeah,
he can dominate games.
Yeah, I think we said last year he controls almost affects every aspect of the game when he's on the court.
And he's definitely a college talent. He's a 3-level scorer. You got in the post, dunking, mid-range is almost unstoppable. He just elevates over people. Nice soft jumper, and he can step out and shoot the 3. So obviously he's the biggest mismatch in 2A. So with him on your team, they have to be in the Power 5 because they have a chance to win with him in any game.
Yeah, and I know one of the big questions is who's the supporting cast this year?
That is what is up for not debate, but that's what needs to be the Parowan needs to find. We have names: Waylon Robinson, Luke Millett, Cash Mortensen, Cooper Miller are some names that I received from some folks in Parowan. These players are going to have to establish themselves as a supporting cast to keep defensive. Let's say that again. To keep defenses honest.
Right.
When they're defending Brock Felder.
Yeah, and I think if they can do that, we saw Brock last year, and like you say, he's quiet. He's not loud on the court, but he just does it. But he affects everything. So if that supporting cast, if they'll learn to work together, kick in, kick out, work around Brock gathers so much attention. It gets a huge opportunity for those guys that you talked about to have some big years.
So Coach Murphy, he's got the nucleus down there. He's starting out in the Power 5, so excited to see what they can do.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to see what they can do as well. Let's go to number 4.
Number 4, this was an easy pick, Enterprise Wolves.
Talk about Enterprise.
Enterprise. We give a little breakdown of Enterprise. Some returners. Brady Crouch. 75 points per game, 129 assists, 81 rebounds. Austin Thomas, 96 rebounds, almost 8 points a game. Dax Hunt, 22 threes. Ty Staley got some big minutes. All those players got big-time minutes through the playoffs and in the state finals. Mm-hmm. And then you'll have some other players. Trayson Randall will get some minutes as well. And I know Enterprise will develop some post player. I don't know who it'll be, but I'm sure they'll have to have a post player.
Yeah. The thing that I like about Enterprise and why I like them in the Power 5 is just about the nucleus that you talked about. Brady Crouch, I'm gonna say arguably the best point guard in 2A, and he's only a junior. The level and the understanding of the game that he has is just uncanny. I gotta really talk to he and his dad a lot last year after the basketball season during baseball. He's a phenomenal baseball player too, and his dad talked about the level of preparedness that he would do and watching videos and doing all these things. And he is a student of the game. When you watch him, he's all of 5'6", maybe 5'7" if he's got some tall shoes on, but he controls the floor for Enterprise. And being surrounded by Austin Thomas and Dax Hunt, those guys had big minutes last year. They were right in the heat of it. They know how to battle. And I think most importantly, Coach Randall has a system that is proven, and he just plugs guys into it, and the guys buy into it. And that's what makes Enterprise so special.
You have to have Enterprise in your Power 5. They've been to the finals 3 years running, and they graduate big-time players, seniors, every year, and the next year he brings them back again. So this is the 4th year now. He's got a team that's good enough to go win it again.
Yeah. The one thing, too, that I like about them, they never panic. Last year they had a huge win down at Blanding early in the season, and then they lost 4 in a row.
Yeah, they went on a skid.
And there wasn't a panic. They just kept going on. They weren't playing well, but they found their rhythm, and when they needed to peak, they peaked at the right time, and they made it happen. That's what happens when you have a good system like that is
consistency.
Is just consistency. You're going to have some games where you just don't play well, but you don't panic because you know where you're going to go. That's why we have Enterprise in our Power 5.
And I can tell you this, Coach Randall, I think every school would love to have a coach and a coaching staff that can get their team to the state finals 3 consecutive years.
Oh, yeah.
And I always go back to the thought of, is he a better coach? Would he be a better coach if he would have won those 3 games than what he is now? No difference. He's a fantastic coach, does a great player development, is unbelievable at Enterprise. Truly a gem to have in your school. No doubt about it. Coach Randall does an absolute wonderful job for the Wolves.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they have to be in the Power 5.
Yep.
No doubt about it.
Yep, no question about it. Let's go to number 3.
Number 3, we have the Millard Eagles.
Millard Eagles.
Another fun pick.
Millard is a fun team. Talk about what Millard brings back this year.
Coming back this year, the do-it-all for them, Hunter Rhodes, 21.6, 63s, 89 assists. Brant Stevens, another dynamic duo in the backcourt, 12.36 points per game, 47 threes, 89 assists as well. And then you just have a collection of their supporting cast. Once again, this is similar to Parowan. The supporting cast is what's going to be the key for them.
Right. Yeah, they lost a key. Rasmussen from last year was huge for them, especially. I mean, he kept them in the game against Kanab in the quarterfinals. But yeah, that will be a big question mark for Millard this year. Is who supports those 2 bigs?
Absolutely. So Taylor Davies and Michael Rouse. You have 4 seniors right there. They've been playing with Coach Rhodes for many, many years since these kids were little rugrats. And the thing that I love about Millard and the way Millard plays, I would say they probably play the most enjoyable, free-flowing style in 2A. And Coach Rhodes takes the handcuffs off. you see him in some games, he'll just be sitting on the bench with his legs crossed and his arms crossed, leaning back in his chair, just watching and letting his kids play. He's developed them over the years how to play in a motion offense, the proper reads, defense to read the defense, and these guys just make plays. The ball will pass, move a lot. Everybody will touch the ball each possession. The thing that's interesting about Hunter Rhodes scores as many as he does. He also has dished out 89 assists.
Yeah.
Brant Stevens also, both of them 90 assists each. So you would think perhaps you got a couple ball hogs on your team. Not the case.
No, not at all.
They're very unselfish players, and that's why their offense flows so good and it's so hard to guard, is because they're all unselfish. Another player to note, Taylor Davies. He's their scrum guy.
He is.
We love scrum guys on teams. Teams have to have them. He's going to be the muscle for them. He's a great passer. So in that offense, he drops dimes too. So they are a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, just a couple observations last year. Sitting at the scorer's table, you get to see a lot of the interactions down on the court. And I know one time Millard was playing at Gunnison. Hunter came down, took a bad shot. It was just overall bad. And he turned and looked at the bench, and this was the conversation. He looked at his dad. He says, "That was a bad shot, wasn't it?" And he said, "Yep, it was." And he went down, and that was it. But I think they understand each other enough. Hunter knew it was a bad shot. His dad knew it was a bad shot. It is what it is.
It is a fun dynamic when his dad will kind of chew on him.
Oh yeah, he'll get on him. Don't get me wrong, he'll get on him. But then you have who I call the silent assassin. That's Brant Stevens. Yeah, just quiet, goes about his business. I anticipate Brant Stevens is going to have a huge year this year.
Now, I don't know this. I haven't talked to Coach Rhodes much about his philosophy this year, but I'm just looking at it from the perspective of you also have Kenyon Gillens, who got some varsity time last year. Great player. He can take. Brant Stevens has typically always been on the ball as the point guard. Now, Coach Rhodes now has the opportunity or options to put him as the point, take Brant off the ball, get him into the actions to score a little bit more because he is a dynamic scorer as well.
Yeah.
So he's got a lot of great options, and I just think Millard plays a very fun style of basketball that's hard to guard.
Yeah.
And they score a lot of points, and they're going to have a great season. That's why they're here. They have a chance to win it.
Yeah, and I too think these guys are going to have a little bit of something to prove. They were playing so well last year, and they got hit with the flu bug right before the state tournament, and it just took the wind out of their sails. And I think they're going to look to use that as some motivation. I don't know that, but I'm just anticipating. They were playing so well, and it was completely out of their control. They've got something to prove this year.
Absolutely.
Let's go to the number 2 team.
Number 2, that would be the South Sevier Rams.
Talk about the South Sevier Rams.
South Sevier Rams. Obviously, they were number 1 pick in the Des News, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct.
Fantastic team. I mean, and you've got, based upon the return, these all five seniors?
5 seniors.
5 seniors returning. So the one player, Braden Staples, the one senior last year that was very, very good for them. This is a fantastic, talented group of kids. Ridge Tebbs, 17.5 points per game, 67 threes, 48 assists. Emilio Miramontes, their do-it-all. He's kind of their scrum guy, but, man, he's talented offensively as well. 11.4 points per game, 32 threes, and the stat that blows my mind is 164 rebounds.
That guy was everywhere last year.
I don't know statistically where rebounds fell last year. I know Sam Andrews from Roland Hall was the leaders in rebounds last year.
He was over 200, if I remember.
And I'm sure Brock Felder was up there. Emilio Miramontes was probably top 5 rebounder.
Easy top 5.
I should look at that, but he does it all, and he makes South Sevier go. Does the dirty work. Just a very, very special player. Riley Barney, the kid has a motor. I love the way he plays. Defensively, he's an attacker. Offensively, he attacks the rim. He's a great player. Baseball MVP.
Fantastic
2A baseball MVP.
Player. Yes.
I love his game. Keegan Heath, solid player for them. Gives them a little bit of height that they do lack, and Carter Abraham. Now, a couple other names that are going to make some noise for South Sevier. me just find them real quick here. Some sophomores. They're loaded.
Yeah,
at
they've got
the lower
their younger group
grades.
In basketball and baseball are really good.
So they won baseball, and they probably the favorites again in baseball this year coming up.
Not to digress, but I think one of the guys that got him there was Stockton Roberts last year. He was underclassman, huge pitching last year.
Game.
I mean, he had some huge innings for one. Again, he plays basketball. One of these guys that's up and coming.
So you have some other players, sophomores, Brace Brindley, Maxon Bastion, Canyon Okerlund, and Stockton Roberts, all of the sophomore class.
They've got we talked about this. Coach Christensen's got to be licking his chops.
Absolutely. You got personnel like that. Senior loaded right now with one of the best teams, if not the best team in 2A, and a chance to win it, and you can follow that up for several more years.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
That is good. I know one of the not necessarily a knock, but one of the things people have said, South Severe doesn't have a lot of height. Tell me why that's not important.
The only time, it's not important. I'll tell you why, because they're so skilled offensively. Their guard play, and most of them are all guards. They are so skilled with their footwork, with their ball handling, with their attack moves, how they can attack defenders, and they play a very aggressive downhill, attack the rim, mentality on offense. So they're gonna force you. If you go man to man, they're just going to beat you off the dribble. You have to bring help, or you're just going to get gashed for layups. You bring help, and guess what? Boom, kick out for wide open threes.
Yeah.
So I love the way South Severe plays. I love their swagger. I love their aggression on offense. It's very, very hard to guard. So you have 5 guards. You can see how they don't have much height, but guess what? The big guys you put on the court, you're going to have to come out and guard them.
Right.
Either they hit threes in your face if you don't guard them, or they'll just blow by you.
Right. Scary team.
So the way they play, I love it. They are aggressive defensively. That's kind of been their trademark over the years, is their half-court X trap. But I love how they attack offensively. Love their game.
Yep.
Very talented. The development of the player development in South Severe is spot on. That's how they want to play, and that's how they develop their players. Similar to Enterprise, they love a different style. That's how they develop their players. South Severe, they play their way, and their coaches, they do a fantastic job.
Yeah, they do.
So South Severe, in our Power 5, definitely has a chance to win it.
Yeah,
one of the best teams there is.
Yep. Well, let's go to our inaugural number 1 team in the Power 5 this year. Who you got?
Kanab Cowboys.
The Kanab Cowboys.
The Kanab, they're kind of the wild card. South Severe is an easy pick, and I think Kanab in most rankings comes in as the number 2 team as well. We just thought maybe because we could be a little different and have a discussion as to why Kanab Cowboys should be a top team too.
Yeah, and I think
not necessarily. I shouldn't say that. Have a conversation why Kanab is one of the teams that can win the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about, just for me, a couple things that stands out to Kanab. Number 1, as a school and as an athletic culture, they know how to win. So they had a huge run last year in the state tournament in basketball, ended up 3rd. Baseball tournament, they had South Severe on the ropes. Ended up finishing strong. Had a good season in baseball. Turned around, went to the 1A state championship in football. So their kids know how to win. They have that culture. They know what it's like to win. In addition to that, their coaching staff, I think, is unmatched. Jaron Glazier, who is a Kanab alum, Kanab legend down there, played at the next level. He knows what it's like to win. He knows what it takes to win. And he's committed to these guys. He's got the guys on the bench that know how to get the kids motivated. So a lot of those behind-the-scenes things are the intangibles that you can't just go out and get. Kanab has those, and that's before we even talk about their guys. So why don't you talk about their big guys for this year?
You mentioned Coach Glazier. He's a coach that he's more my style. He gets fired up.
Oh yeah.
He's aggressive. He's in the game. He's up. He's active. Very, very competitive. I love his style.
Absolutely.
Love his coaching style. Want to go over personnel here?
Yeah.
Personnel. Let's do it. Scoring wise, almost equally. Jordan Cornell, 15.5 points per game, 84 threes, 66 assists. Kaysen James, 15.2 points per game, 122 rebounds, 42 assists. That's where the bulk of your points are all going to come from. These two guys carry the load offensively. Logan Little, fantastic surprise last year. Developed a big guy for Kanab, 6 points per game, 97 rebounds. And Kanab has some senior. They have some senior depth this year. You've got, along with Kaysen, Jordan, and Logan, all seniors. Derek Brown, Trent Orton, and Brandon Daya, all seniors. One addition that may be kind of a sleeper for Kanab is Cale Glover. And I think the thing that makes Cale Glover special for the Cowboys is last year Jordan Cornell had goodness gracious, Jordan Cornell had to handle most of the point guard responsibilities for them.
Right.
And when you're the point guard, you get hounded. And he worked his tail off and got hounded trying to get Kanab up into offense, which I think took a little bit away from his offensive game.
Yeah, I agree.
And the offensive game, his putting threes up, that's his skill. So Kanab, interesting enough, we contrast styles. Kanab is a different style of team compared to the other teams. They play their own style. They're an execution team. Coach Glazier has his guys, puts them in positions, and they execute. What this allows them to do is allows them to get the ball in their scorers' hands the maximum amount of times.
Right.
So they'll run sets. They know, Jordan knows he's going to get shots from this spot right here. Kaysen knows he's going to get the ball in this spot, and he can attack from this spot. So different philosophy, but Jaron Glazier is a primo tactical coach.
Yeah, and I like, Kaysen James, big football guy. Again, arguably, I think he's one of the toughest guys down in the post. Big, strong. I know he's worked on that strength. He's going to muscle you down there. And you combine that with Logan Little, you put those guys down in the post, you got some good height. Again, talk about Cale Glover. You get Cornell out in space, probably the best catch and shoot guy in 2A. He's going to get you with that.
Yeah.
The other thing I love, Cale Glover, I don't know if you ever saw him play baseball. He played third base for the Cowboys. He can talk with the best of them. But I love that about him. He's one of those guys, you know where he is and you know where he stands. Those are the type of guys I think Coach Glazier loves on his team. He's got some fire. He's got some passion. He's ready to go. That's what I like about the Cowboys is that they kind of have the swagger about them. They know who they are. They know what they do. There's not a lot of fanciness necessarily with them, but you're right, they're an execution team. They're going to play some hard-nosed defense on you. Like what I see out of the Cowboys.
Absolutely. They've got, as all these teams in the Power 5, we talk about before we started the introduction of our Power 5, you've got to think all the intangibles. So let's start with coaching staff, all dynamic coaching staffs. You talk about personnel. All these teams have 1-2 dynamic, hard-to-guard players. Very, very skilled. You got supporting casts. And you got just all these teams have a little bit of swagger too. They all know how to win. They all want to win. So that's why all these 5 teams are in our Power 5. All of them have a chance to win a championship if it started right now. We just happen to have a 1 through 5 ranked to start with, and then things will shuffle. That's what's fun about the Power 5.
Absolutely, you're going to
things will shuffle, and things will we have some ebbs and flows, and teams will move up and down. This is our starting point, and we roll from here. Yep. This is where it gets exciting.
Yeah, it is. It goes a lot from here. So in addition to our top 5, we always talk about teams that are, to use a term, on the bubble, or some dark horse teams out there who just kind of floating around. South Severe was one of those teams last year. Parowan was one of those teams. They just kind of floated around, and all of a sudden, bam, they were on the scene. So each one of us have come up with a dark horse team that we want to talk about that we think could make some noise this year. Benny, why don't you go first?
Do you mind if I'm a homer?
Absolutely not.
Well, I'm going to be a homer for a minute. Just simply because I'm a Gunnison Bulldog. I coached there for 10 years, and last year was my first year off in 10 years, and it was a struggle for me, just not being a part of the action. And Gunnison, under Coach Mosman last year, they took it on the chin.
Yeah,
they really
had a rough
did.
Year.
there are a lot of reasons why things didn't go the way they wanted it to go. But I think this year, people are still counting them out. I think they're going to surprise some people. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to put some pieces together and make a little noise. Yeah. So a couple players to make mention of. John Wilden, he's played a lot of basketball.
Yep, dynamic.
Great player. He struggled last year with new coaching staff and for whatever reason, just not a great year, but fine young man. Mm-hmm. He's going to do some great things this year. Brogan Christensen is a smooth player. He's a stretch four, soft touch around the rim, but can step out, and he's got a deadly three. I think he's going to have a great season. You have Carter Hill, another senior that is returning, that's played some minutes. He's a tough-nosed player. He's a Hill. Mm-hmm. Cody Hammond, another senior. There's 4 or 5 seniors there. Well-built kid, athletic, can get to the rim, can rebound well. And then you got some juniors. Tyson Tucker. We didn't mention that the Gunnison Bulldogs won the 8-man state championship in football. Yep. Tyson was the quarterback. He's the big for Gunnison. Mm-hmm. He's every bit of 6'3", 6'4", well-built, great motor. He's got a good soft touch. And then we'll close it out with our homegrown Jet, our son here in the house. He's a junior. He got some minutes last year at the varsity level. Had his eyes wide open.
It's a hard transition.
Yeah. Going from freshman basketball to varsity basketball with not a lot of seniors to carry the load. He was wide-eyed, blown away a little bit. But he's quick. He's fast. Good shooter, and aggressive player. So I think Coach Mosman has the components right here to put together a very competitive team this year.
Especially in Region 16, where we talked about, I think it goes without saying, Millard Eagles are definitely the favorite, just based on their experience and who they have. But there's 4 other teams that are going to be looking to see who can rise to the top. No doubt, if Gunnison can put it together, they can easily finish number 2, if not challenge Millard for a region championship. There's no reason they can't.
Yeah, so I'm excited to go cheer on the Bully Dogs this year.
Nice.
Yeah, even though if I am a homer,
that's all right. We can do that. We can do whatever
Absolutely.
we want to do here. my dark.
What you got? What you got?
My dark horse for the year are the San Juan Broncos.
Interesting that they would be San Juan would be a dark horse. Why are they your dark horse?
I think a couple of reasons. So if you know anything about the Broncos, last year Coach Travis Black had his group. He coached them from when they were just tiny, worked them all the way through. They had 7 dynamic seniors that played 99% of the minutes. Yeah. They finished second 2 years ago in the 3A state championship. They won the state championship last year in miraculous fashion, storybook fashion. But now all 7 of those seniors have graduated. Coach Black has retired and moved on. They hired a new coach, Coach Slavens. And you've got some juniors from last year who sat on the bench, played a lot of JV, who watched these kids have a lot of success.
And often overlooked, they practiced against them every day.
Exactly. So they knew what it was like to win. They were there. These are kids also who have won back-to-back titles in football. So the reason why I picked them as a dark horse, number one, they know how to win in San Juan. Blanding, they know how to win. These kids are tough, hard-nosed. You don't win back-to-back state championships in football by not being tough. They've got some tough kids. The challenge that they face is, number one, they got a new coach. With any new, it's always just new, right? They're going to fill it out new with the kids. I understand he's new. He is a Bronco alum, but he's moved away and came back. So he does have that going for him. But I do believe it takes some time for the kids to adjust and get some trust going there. I do think what's going to happen is you're going to have a group that's come in and they're going to say, we got nothing to lose.
Why not us?
Why not us?
Yep. Nobody
Nobody knows us. Let's go out. Let's play hard-nosed basketball. The challenge is going to be finding somebody to replace Cooper Black and Ladd Ivans. And that's going to be a tall order because those guys, they would just take over games. And they had scrum guys like QB1 and Jaden Black and Jensen Grover. They had those dynamic kids last year who played for years and years. Somebody on that team's going to have to step up. Do I think they can? Yeah. Do I think they'll make some noise? Absolutely. I think they will. And part of that is because nobody knows them.
Yeah.
And same thing.
Of
It's
all
like,
the teams, they're probably the most unknown.
why not us? And if I'm Coach Slavens, that may be it. Why not us, guys? Nobody knows us. Let's just go in there, punch people in the mouth, and show them what San Juan's all about. That's why that's why I like San Juan as my dark horse.
I love it. Absolutely love it.
So
It would be nice if we could get Gunnison in the Power 5 at some point, San Juan in our Power 5 at some point.
Absolutely.
Just because they were our dark horses.
Yeah, a lot of fun. This is why we do it. This is a lot of fun, but we love to give recognition back to these kids.
Kids, definitely, this is what it is. It's all for the kids, and we love to give recognition to the coaches because they put in so much time and effort. They get a bad rap a lot of times. They take a lot of heat, but man, coaches and players, this is what it's for, and we're going to give them the best recognition we can, because they all deserve it.
That was a fun initial Power 5.
Absolutely,
and it only gets better from here.
That's what every week we'll have the Power 5. We'll bring it to you, and once we start getting head-to-head matchups, that's when it gets fun. Number 2 versus number 3 in our Power 5, and break the matchups down, and then see where they fall out the next week.
Yeah,
love it.
A lot of fun. Well, it's been a fun night. As we go to wrap up in our last segment, this season will be sponsored by G-Telco. G-Telco, the Sanders family, they provide Gunnison with telephone and internet service. We appreciate them giving us a sponsorship again this year. They're big on. They may not necessarily want to talk basketball.
Probably not.
But they will talk baseball. Absolutely. They'll talk
softball,
softball, and golf.
And, well, no, Cubs,
Vikings.
Yeah.
They're having a heck of a season. They love their Vikings. The Vikings are just rolling this season. So we appreciate
great sponsor.
Those sponsorships. So as we go to close out tonight, give me some final thoughts.
My thoughts are, I love this time of year because everybody, you've noticed, if you reached out to coaches a little bit, things are a little tense right now.
Oh, yeah.
People you got cuts. Now, that being said, I mean, they've probably had their tails chewed by a couple parents because of cuts and complaining and things like that. So it's not a fun time, the first week and getting your team prepped. But what I'm excited about is you never know how the season's going to play out.
Yeah.
Never know. We had no idea last year.
Oh, I have no
this
idea.
year, a whole new team could absolutely just blow up. There's going to be players that have grown from sophomores to juniors or whatever that show up on the scene. There's players last year that just blew up. They blew our minds, We didn't even know of certain players, and there they are. So the unknown is what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited. I'm excited to get back in the flow again, to get back to following this all the time. There's some storylines out there that we don't know. Last year, there were storylines at the end of the season. We had no clue.
Yep.
We had no idea. And by the end of the season, it was like, holy cow. I was like, all right, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? How's this going to play out? The great thing about sports is you can't script it.
Yep.
You have in your mind what you want to happen, but you can't script it.
Yep.
And even at the 2A boys basketball level, some amazing things are going to happen.
Yeah.
Some kids are going to step up. Things are going to happen. People are going to have an amazing year. At the end of the season, somebody will be crowned a champion, and we'll do it all again, and people start over. But in between that, I think that's what the fourth row is all about: is what happens underneath all that.
Yeah. Another thing, another closing shot is we're going to do our best to add a lot more commentary to the show. We're going to bring some coaches on. There'll be some long format interview podcasts that we'll put up separate from our normal weekly podcast. But we're going to bring some coaches on maybe for 10, 15 minutes just to give us an update on their team, their region, just to check in and say hi. I think that'll add a lot more context and a lot more depth to our conversation throughout the year.
Absolutely. If there's any coaches out there that want to come to the studio on a Sunday night when we're recording, we specifically got our equipment this year so we can handle 2 more mics this year.
We could put 4 in here.
So if you got any coaches out there, players for that matter, want to dial us up and want to show up on a Sunday night and talk basketball, we would absolutely love that.
That would be sweet.
That's what we want to do. So if you're interested, reach out to us. We'd love to have you.
That would be cool.
Well, as we close tonight, we appreciate you being with us. Again, reach out to us on our social media channels. Check us out on our website. So for the fourth row, for myself, Andy Hill, and for the coach, Benny Hill, we're out.
Thank you for spending your time with the fourth row. For more information, check out our website at fourthrowmedia.com or send us a message through any of our social media channels.